Hey, how's it going, everybody? We're back with another edition of the Ad Podcast. And today we have a really exciting guest. Esther-Mireya Tejeda is the Chief Marketing Officer of Anywhere Real Estate, which holds shingles that you might be familiar with, like Coldwell Banker, the Cochran Group, named after famous Shark Tank superstar Barbara Cochran, and Century 21. But she has an extensive, exciting media career, working most recently as the Chief Marketing Officer of SoundExchange and also CBS and many other entertainment companies before that. So Esther, thanks so much for coming on the show today. We're really excited to have you.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me on, Dylan.
Yeah, totally. So first thing I'd love to just hop into, you're at a real estate company right now, but you've got a super exciting, interesting background, mainly coming up through comms and PR on the entertainment, media, and music side. So I gave a little bit of background, but obviously you could probably fill in the gaps for our audience. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey and what led you to your current role leading marketing over at Anywhere Real Estate?
Sure. So I have actually been all across CPG, media and entertainment, music, and now real estate. I interestingly started my career in wine and spirits, working on Pernod Ricard brands, and eventually, which some of you may recognize, like Stoli Vodka and Malibu Rum, and then made my way to Diageo, where I was working on other bellwether brands like Johnny Walker and Guinness Beer, Smirnoff. Was there for the launch of Ciroc vodka, and on and on and on. And then made my way through to Pepsi, where I worked on the Pepsi brand, and all of the brands within that portfolio: Diet Pepsi, Pepsi Max, Pepsi Next, everything that launched with the Pepsi name on it in the years that I was there. Eventually moved on into media and went to Univision, and also went to what at that time was Entercom and CBS Radio, and is now Odyssey. Moved to SoundExchange, and then ultimately came to Anywhere. But the thing that is the tying thread in all of these stops in my 20 plus year career is the theme of transformation. And so the thing that I do is I go into bellwether brands and organizations that are either have identified a need to diversify, change, or pivot in some way, are trying to launch something new, or have to bring something back that is currently on life support. And it is that business of total transformation, reimagination, reinvigoration that is what I do and what I have been doing now for the better part of 20 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the real estate industry, like many, I'm sure, was ripe for, disruption. And I think I read that you started the in-housing effort as well over there, launching the in-house brand agency and really kind of consolidating work in-house to kind of work across all the brands that you guys represent.
Yeah, I mean, look, the real estate, like any other industry, all industries, regardless of vertical and sector, are and have been going through really tremendous disruption as digital has sort of taken over the way that we operate as human beings and as consumers, right? And also as the digital behavior continues to change at a pace that is so fast that what worked yesterday is not necessarily what's going to work tomorrow. So the state of transformation for most organizations, regardless of industry and sector, is now a constant, right? The name of the game is constant reimagination, constant transformation to keep up with, and this is a thing that I'm very passionate about, but to keep up with how society, culture, people, human behavior, consumer habits, and therefore business behaviors are also having to evolve, because all of this is in response to the world around us. And so real estate, like anything else, is ripe for that disruption. And I think the thing that has tied all of this work together is this idea of operational efficiency, right? And so how do you, in a world where, what worked yesterday doesn't work tomorrow, we don't really even know what's working today. All of the behaviors and mindsets are so different than they were 5-6 years ago, even 1 or 2 years ago. How do we continue to operate efficiently in this super dynamic environment where, tomorrow and certainly 3-5 years from now is a total unknown. And so that is the work that I love and that I have been doing for, 20 something years now across industries and verticals.
Yeah, I love it. And you were in roles inside of the music industry, probably when they were at its most ripe opportunity for disruption and transformation, innovations like streaming and, multi-platform networks across YouTube and podcasting and all of those things. So what's been some of the common threads across all these different organizations and categories that you've been able to work across in the transformation sector?
It's that you and I and every other human being on the planet is very, very different than how we would have operated 10 years ago, right? Yeah. I mean, who would have ever told someone, even in our generation, coming out of college, in the early aughts or not, that we would all be listening to the radio on a device that goes in our purse or in our pocket that is the size of our hand, right? Or that we would be able to choose what radio content, audio content we want to hear by clicking and swiping on a device that we hold in our hand. I mean, so much has changed, and that means fundamentally that we have changed. Consumer behaviors have changed. Consumer habits have changed. And the thing about that is particularly important for business to keep focused on is that the business then needs to respond really, really differently to those consumers. So here are some new things, newish, right, that keep evolving about us consumers, human beings, people in the world. One, our relationship with brands and businesses are 100% two-way. It is no longer, it has not been for a while, a conversation of a brand or a business talking to us and sending us messages. It is very much the consumer sending messages and setting the expectation of what they want and need and desire from that business or that brand. That is relatively new, right? Yeah. That's number one. Number two, within this new context of the consumer being in the driver's seat, the consumer being the person who's calling the shots and demanding and setting their own expectations, what makes this even more complex is that what those expectations are is so diverse and fragmented that there's no possible way to do one size fits all business strategy or one size fits all marketing, right? Because in this new vein that we're all living in now, where it is all about the consumer being in the driver's seat, what I want and what you want from the same brand might be really different things.
Yeah. And we both feel like we own it.
And we both feel like we own it. And we both are looking for that loyalty and that responsiveness from the brand in order for us to connect with it. And we may be on completely opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of what we want that brand to be like. And so what is super critical, and a lot of the work that I am doing in this space, is understanding the granularity with precision of all of those variety of expectations and the diversity of your customer segments and where the sweet spots are, so that you can obviously personalize and target, but you can do it in a way that is much more precise than anything we have ever done as marketers and as business strategists in the past. That is a, profoundly different way of thinking about business, brand, and certainly marketing than anything we have seen in before 5 years ago, in terms of large scale mass marketing work, creative strategy, et cetera.
Yeah. I guess that leads itself into that topic of personalization, right? Like if I'm sitting here in San Diego and I see an ad that is obviously targeted that's supposed to be delivered to a woman who lives in New York, I might be like, this brand doesn't get me. And if you see an ad for a surfer who lives in San Diego, you're like, oh, this brand doesn't get me. Like, we all want to feel like the brand is talking directly to us now.
Exactly. And you and I could very well both be loyalists of that same exact brand. And so the job of that brand is to figure out how to speak to you in a way that makes sense for you, and how to speak to me in a way that makes sense for me, and how to tell us apart. And so a lot of what I have been working on is something called emographics. And it's this idea that a lot of human behavior and the choices that we are making are driven by our subconscious emotional constitution.
Yeah.
Right? We like to think of ourselves, or human beings in general, as super rational beings who make decisions with our minds. And if you think about marketing and how marketing has been built as a discipline over the decades, we have always said that we want to know why. We're asking the why of consumer behavior. Why? But if you really dig deep onto the modalities and the research and the way we do insights and the way we think about consumers, we've really never been asking why. What we've been asking is who and what. So if you think about demographics, which is a basic way that we segment our customers and we can tell the difference between Dylan and Esther-Mireya, that's who, right? That doesn't tell you why. And then we evolved into psychographics, where we were segmenting, we were creating these personas around, the likes and dislikes of our customer, what they were like as human beings, what were their hobbies, what were they interested in, so we can shape an idea of how that person behaved. But again, that's not why, that's what. So we now know who they are and what they do, but we really don't know why they do these things, why they like these things, like what is making them tick. And so what emography is about, and I'm not sure if I made that word up, but I'm taking it to the next level.
I like it. Let's go.
And now emographic, it's this idea of the why actually being your subconscious emotional makeup, right? And so now we have to layer in this third modality to really get that super nuanced, really comprehensive view of our customer, which includes their demographic information, their psychographic information, but now most importantly, their emographic information. What makes Dylan the kind of person that likes blue and not yellow? What makes Esther-Mireya the kind of person that approaches large financial purchases like a home or a car with anxiety, as opposed to approaching it with anticipation or approaching it with a sense of achievement and pride, right? There is something about the kind of human being that I am that probably I can't articulate, that is what is making that experience an anxious one. And that information, the why of that, is not any detail that a customer will ever be able to tell you in a survey, right? They're not aware of it. It's subconscious. They'll never be able to tell it to you in a focus group for the same reason. And so this is where the neuroscience and the behavioral science work in a marketing landscape, in a marketing environment, to lead to the emographics is really unlocking the next frontier of what we're going to be able to do as marketers to deal with that diverse and fragmented customer segmentation, to identify the differences between our various variety of customers across the globe or the world, wherever you operate. This is going to be the next set of tools, and I'm fully championing and embracing that. And it's a lot of the work that I'm doing right now with neuroscience partners.
Yeah, I love that. I was just reflecting on, as you were talking, I was thinking like, okay, what brands do I have an emotional connection to? And I thought about Cadillac, because my grandpa drove a Cadillac. And he used to also take me to Sizzler. And strangely enough, I still love the brand Sizzler. I haven't been in one in a while because they're hard to find now. But,
They're hard to find.
But I drove an Escalade because that's what I felt like. Oh, my grandpa drove a Cadillac, and that was a symbol of him like arriving. He could buy the car that he wanted, and he bought a Cadillac.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you something about that. If a competitive brand to Cadillac was able to unlock whatever is going on subconsciously for you, that is connecting the Cadillac brand to your grandfather and to whatever those feelings are about the sense of arriving, about the sense of accomplishment. If another brand is able to unlock that subconscious emotional well that is driving this feeling, they would be able to convert you to right?
Cool. Yeah.
So that, because it's, you're talking about your grandfather, but that is a metaphor for something that you're feeling inside, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's what attracts you, and that is what attracts you to the Cadillac brand. And so I love that you brought up that example, because that's where the magic is right now in this discipline.
Yeah, so cool. Fascinating. And as much as we like to think, like you said, we're these decisive, articulate people, we're still really primordial ooze staring at the shelf of water, and we're making impulsive decisions from parts of our brain that don't really have the reasoning that we think they do when we reach out and pull something off the shelf. And I try to be reflective when I walk up to a display. When I walk up to the water display in a gas station, I look at all the water, and then I try to be intentional, like, okay, which one am I drawn to and why? Oh, Liquid Death, that's kind of cool. They've been pretty splashy right now, but I don't know, Perrier is kind of that brand that's associated with an artistic lifestyle, or going to Art Basel or whatever it is. But I think we could all be better students of our impulses around the purchase decisions we make.
So do you always pick the same brand?
It fluctuates from time to time. Sometimes I will change loyalty. So another one I was thinking about when you were talking is Rockstar Energy Drink was originally the brand that I drank when I drank an energy drink, because they used to give them away for free at college. And I formed a bond to it, in the fraternity house at college. But then as I got older, then I started reaching for Red Bull, because one day I said, you know what? Red Bull makes such awesome surfing content, and I watch their content all the time. I'm like, what has Red Bull or what has Rockstar done for me lately? Nothing. I'm going to reward Red Bull with my loyalty, because they make content that actually, matters and makes a difference in my life. And then my newest kick is this one. It's called Jocko Fuel. I just got back from this guy's conference, and it's a super clean drink, so it has more of the health benefits. But this guy that put out this Jocko Fuel, he's a Navy SEALs podcaster, and he's just delivered such value by me listening to his podcast that I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy his thing now. So my loyalty changes based on what brands are actually giving me something back in return, I feel like, in the marketing.
And what you're actually identifying is that there's something in your emotional constitution that values giving back, right? Mm-hmm. And so brands that you feel are connecting with you, are giving back to you, are investing in you, the things that you like in your culture, the things that you're interested in, your hobbies, etc. Those are the brands that you value and you're going to connect with. And that is an insight that if you were in a focus group, you probably wouldn't be able to articulate, but with neuroscience and with behavioral science and demographics, we would be able to bring that out. Wow. through our demographic technique. So, I mean, I think that that's a fascinating example. And it also shows that fluidity of customer behavior, and that you are a different person every day at various points of the day, right? Who you are and how you feel and how you're thinking at 9 a.m. may not be the same mindset or heart set that you would be in at 1 o'clock in the afternoon or 11 p.m. at night. And so you may make different choices, and you may think about brands differently or your customer experience differently, depending on who you are, what you like, why you like it, and what time of the day and where you are in your mindset or in your heart set when the engagement happens. So there is so much sort of variable in that customer experience and that customer outreach for a brand. Mm-hmm. And so one size fits all marketing, which is what, I certainly started doing when I got into this discipline 20 something years ago, big brand campaigns, big TV ads, big radio ads, etc. These are sweeping message statements and sweeping brand value propositions that are supposed to, kind of encapsulate as many customers as possible. That one size fits all approach, when we are becoming more complex as individual buyers, as individual customers, when we ourselves are so fragmented, and when we look at the collection of customers, it's beyond fragmented. The one size fits all approach equals one size fits none. So it's all about precision in your marketing, targeting personalization, and really granular understanding of who your people are and how different they are from each other, and even different how different they are from themselves throughout a 24-hour cycle.
Yeah, I love that. And I imagine, back in the day, it was probably because channels were limited too, right? So you had, things you could listen to like the radio, you had things you could watch like TV, and you had things you could see like billboards and magazines. And now we live in a much different world, and we're exposed to so many more marketing messages through the digital channels that we consume.
That's right.
Yeah, very cool. All right. I want to flip over to more of a question around your management philosophy that I really loved reading about an interview that you had. I couldn't remember the publication, but somebody was asking you like, what would be the best advice you would give managers, or maybe it was, people looking to climb the corporate ladder. And you said that really people need to think of their coworkers as people first, their colleagues as people first, before they think of them as subordinates, or you as the CMO, or, just kind of like trying to break down those walls of seniority and hierarchy, and really see people as who they are as individuals before you start to get into their professional roles. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit? Because I really love that insight from a management philosophy perspective.
Oh, sure. I think that I know the word empathy is used a lot and it's a little cliche, but I think that, really basically, we spend so many hours of our life with our colleagues and at work in some capacity or another. If you as a leader, or just as a person who's in the business environment with someone else, if you aren't understanding that person comprehensively and understanding that they're showing up to work and also balancing their family, and perhaps they're in school, and perhaps they have a second job, and perhaps they have kids, or they're caring for their elderly, parents, or whatever their situations may be, then you're really not having a multidimensional experience of that person. And I think that is the biggest way to lose the value of the talent that are on your teams and across the aisle in other teams across an organization. And so I think we have historically, as American business culture, been super hierarchical to a degree that we have separated the professional from the personal life by intent, right? It is something that we were taught to do. It is something that we were told was the professional thing to do, to really decouple what is happening in the rest of your life from what is happening in your professional life. And not only is that, in my opinion, practically impossible to do, right, in any type of meaningful way, but there's so much value, thought, perspective, diversity of opinion, variety of, points of view that gets lost when everyone is just trying to fit the mold of their role and of their rank, so to speak. And so as a leader, I know, and I have experienced really amazing ideas and tremendous talent coming from every part of my organization, no matter how junior to how senior. And there are, young professionals in really junior roles that have brilliant insights, especially in marketing and especially in customer research and data and analytics, because they're living in the world every day, and we're all living in the world every day. And so I think allowing the space for people to be, their comprehensive full self in a business environment is the easiest way to extract that value that we all want to extract for business results and performance. It makes people happier. It also allows you to work faster, more streamlined, more efficiently. And third, it brings such an additional wealth of insight that is right there for you to grasp. You just open the door and allow it to come through. And so that's something I believe in really wholeheartedly.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I feel like COVID kind of leveled the playing field in a way that allowed people to, infuse their personal situations a lot more with whatever was happening. People were stuck at home with their kids or with parents or whatever the situation was. And it allowed people to maybe, see them in their personal lives versus their office lives every single day. So I think whatever legacy has stuck around from the COVID experiment, I think that was probably the most positive impact. Like I have some, people on my team that are morning people. They get up early and they want to leave the office by 2 or 3. And as long as they get in and get their work done early and then they check, they get their stuff done, that's great. And then somebody else is more of a night owl. And if you kind of, let them work the way that they like to work, they tend to get more things done because you're not trying to fit them to the same box as everybody else. It's like the personalization of work is kind of how we were talking about the personalization of marketing.
100%. And if you're not worried and you're not kind of locking people into this concern and fear around titles and seniority and et cetera, there's also going to be more comfort, right? So people will step forward with creative ideas, risky ideas that they've perhaps had all along, but didn't feel it was appropriate to share, right? Or didn't feel like they could share because they hadn't thought it all the way out. And this is a really senior person. And so there's so much innovation and ideation and creativity that just gets lost because it's trapped in people's minds because they're just holding on to the status quo and the structure of hierarchy and rank and file. And it's absolutely terrible. And so a lot of the leadership work that I do is around mentorship and sponsorship and, redefining business culture in a way that it feels inclusive and in a way that is values all of the ideas and talent, regardless of where they sit in the organization. And I really do believe that you can be a leader regardless of your role. Like everyone has the capacity to be a leader. And as actual leaders that are entitled leadership roles, and I'm putting that in air quotes, it is our job to unlock that on those people for the people that are on our teams. And so I think that that's critically important. And I agree with you. I think COVID strangely helped us to make a leap there. I mean, we were looking into people's kitchens and bedrooms and living rooms on their Zoom calls for the first time ever. I mean, I remember that year of 2020, I saw everybody's house on who, you get so much information about how a person lives and who they are from what their home looks like we were brought in, right? And so I think we need to encourage more of that kind of balance in work life.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I feel like the best leaders are the ones that lead by decentralization, right? Like they empower their teams to run and, like you said, empower them all to be leaders, whether that's leaders over, it maybe isn't a team, but it's a leader over their work or a leader over their project or whatever their contribution is. They, allowing them to even fail sometimes but rather let them fail and learn versus micromanage, right?
Yes, I agree with you.
Very cool. All right. I want to get into a little bit of your take sitting in the CMO of a publicly traded company. We always hear these horror stories or these like scare tactic articles of, the average tenure of a CMO is 1.3 years or whatever. I really love your background because you came up from the PR and comm side, but you have such insights into the strategy and research piece. So what do you define the CMO role as today, and how has it changed for you as you've climbed up the corporate ladder?
So I love this question. It's a constant discussion, in the business world, this question about the CMO role and the dilemma with the CMO role, and that infamous statistic around how short the tenures are, generally speaking. Before I get into it, I will say I have never seen another C-suite role as scrutinized as the CMO role. It is really like unparalleled. It has never happened before, at least in my lifetime, and it is not happening to any other role in the C-suite. But there is a hyper focus on the CMO role and what it should be and shouldn't be, and are they successful or not, and et cetera. And here's where I think this is coming from. if you were to go right now onto LinkedIn and pull, a handful of CMO job descriptions today, you would most likely read a handful of completely different roles. I mean, there would be some commonality, obviously, kind of woven through, but by and large, it could be anywhere. Someone could be calling it a CMO, and it's mostly corporate affairs and public policy and some comms and some brand. And you can go all the way to the other extreme and have a CMO role that's all about performance marketing, digital data and analytics, right? And so, and then there's the spectrum in between, right? And so the fact that there is not a defined and a universally agreed upon and accepted understanding of what is a CMO creates so much room for that tension and that misalignment between CEO, CFO, and CMO, right? And so you have to go into the role and you have to go into the organization understanding what they are defining as a CMO and understanding if that is aligned, if there's alignment on that understanding through the organization, and importantly, with the board, right? So the fact that this is not a universal slam dunk. Look, no one's questioning what is the role of a CEO. No one is asking what is the role of a CFO. Everyone is asking what is the role of the CMO. As an industry, we need to take this conversation by the reins and start defining this function for ourselves, as opposed to letting the function be defined as an output of a variety of business needs that vary by sector, vary by geographic location, vary by CEO. All right. So we've lost control. We need to bring this back in. We need to start really defining what this function is and is not on our own terms as functional experts. And I think importantly, we also need to rebrand some of this work, right? There's also this dichotomy of like the brand CMO versus the performance marketing driven CMO. All marketing should be performance, right? All marketing should be performing. So calling it performance marketing almost suggests that all the other marketing doesn't perform. No, all marketing should be performing, right? This is all really poorly branded, and we're creating we're creating these false sort of tensions and this versus that don't need to exist, and I think are exacerbating the issue. Brand marketing should be performing for you. Performance marketing should be performing for you. All of it should be working in concert and in a strategically unified way to deliver on the results. But the misalignment and just the variety of understandings and terms, and now we also have all of these new marketing CMO adjacent titles, Chief Growth Officer, Chief Engagement Officer, Chief Brand Officer, that are just, renamed CMOs when you really start to unpack it. It's sort of going out, it has gotten a little bit out of our control. And I really wish as an industry that we could get together and start to define this very clearly and once and for all.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. It's, I talk to a lot of CMOs. They're the primary person that I interview for this podcast. And something that I hear often is, you as the CMO would never walk into the chief information officer's office and say, I've been thinking this weekend that we should probably switch over our IT servers from Microsoft Azure over to Amazon Web Services, right? Like that's not going to happen because, what do I know about Microsoft or Amazon Web Services unless I'm a specialist, right? But because we all as consumers are exposed to so much marketing, we all have opinions on how it should be done. And, the worst creative is creative that's done by consensus or creative that's done by a boardroom versus a tight group of people who are trained in the insights and the demography that you were talking about and these other disciplines, because, nothing worse than creating a piece of creative that just speaks to like a bunch of sales guys or something like that,
Oh my goodness. Listen, you're preaching to the choir. Everybody is a marketer, right? Everybody is a marketer. Everybody is a subject matter expert in marketing in their own opinion. And again, that's where the CMO role has to earn and take its rightful seat at the table. One of the pieces of advice that I always give anyone that is aspiring to or growing up in the marketing discipline is that you have to first and foremost be a business strategist who has a functional expertise in marketing. You cannot first and foremost be a marketer who's trying to operate marketing in a business environment. It has to be the other way around, right? And so by aligning marketing to the business, in other words, speaking the language of the CEO and the CFO, speaking in terms of economic impact, commercial opportunity, revenue generation, growth, etc., you are part of the business strategy as opposed to a support function that is sometimes sales enablement or is sometimes just the arts and crafts team, etc. So showing up with the mindset of, there is a business that has to be stewarded. It is my role, as it is everyone else in the C-suite, to steward this business forward. I happen to have an expertise in marketing. The person next to me happens to have expertise in finance. The person next to that person happens to have an expertise in legal, and so on and so forth. And all together, we are stewarding this business forward under our CEO. That is a very different perspective than showing up and saying, well, I'm a marketer, so I know how to do marketing. No, you know how to do business. And the way that you do business and you bring it to life is through these incredible, specific set of skills in the world of marketing, but you're first and foremost a business person. And so if we start to embrace that, and also we start to teach that to the next generation of marketing and business strategists and transformation artists that are coming up in this discipline, I think we'll be able to have that seat at the table that we're missing right now in many organizations and many industries. And we'll be able to calm this narrative around, the near extinction of the CMO, because it's a function that absolutely is necessary. It's the only function that is connected to the customer, that understands the customer, and that is reading the room for the business. And so you must have marketing. The question is, how do we evolve and how do we bring others along in the evolution of marketing as the world continues to evolve, business continues to evolve, et cetera?
Yeah. And I think you alluded to the idea of this premium that we place on measurability, right? Or brand versus performance. And the reality is, as we all know, as marketers, your performance doesn't work if there is no brand. If you're not driving awareness of the brand, then none of those channels work. And just because you can't measure TV or radio or outdoor with the same precision as you can as a Facebook ad with a tracking pixel, that doesn't mean it doesn't work. So, you have to look at the full funnel. I mean, it is sometimes distracting, that quote that I know my marketing is working, I just don't know which part, but it does play, you gotta build a big brand halo if you want performance to continue to operate for you. I think Casey Herbis, the CMO of Rocket Mortgage, called a hypodermic drip, or those brands that forget about brand and then just focus completely on what drives these like quant style lower funnel conversion metrics only. So
it's a slow walk to death for any brand to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's short term, it's short view, it's not sustainable. It's crap in and crap out. I mean, you may be able to get away with it for 2 or 3 quarters, maybe a year or 2, because you're still running off of the heat of, whatever brand halo you had. But if you do not invest in your brand and continue to evolve your brand, and if you fundamentally don't invest in customer insights, then that crap in, crap out is eventually going to crap out, right? So there goes this whole concept of performance marketing. And I wish we would stop using that term, because it's just the implication that this performs and everything else doesn't, it's something that has really hurt marketing as an industry. And it has created this dichotomy between good marketing is the performance and bad marketing is everything else, because that stuff doesn't work. It doesn't perform. Well, we all know, we can all see that it has to be integrated and comprehensive, to your point, right? One thing feeds the other. This entire thing is a spectrum. It all has to tie together. And you cannot have one half of the spectrum and not the other half of the spectrum, because then there is no spectrum and the customer can't get through. And so it's a conversation we need to keep having. And I'm really glad that you are bringing this up today. I think more CMOs have to be really vocal and push back on this in the rooms that matter and with the folks that are driving this framing in our business.
Yeah, no, I love that. So I wanted to just get your take, since you're doing so much work in this emography, that's a mouthful for me, sorry. I was wondering if you've identified any interesting new customer behaviors that you guys are starting to pin down, and like how is the customer behavior changing based on what you're seeing in, let's say, like the last year?
So I think the most interesting thing is what we've talked about so far a little bit, is that the idea of these broad sweeping customer behaviors is no longer. Right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so there are so many micro pockets of different customer behaviors that are really hard to pinpoint in a way that we've done it in the past, right? So if you are to look at, and I use this example a lot because it makes the most sense. If you were to look at 3 Latina women, right, of generally the same age range, all East Coast, dark hair, brown glasses, you would think, and there's 3 of us on my team, that's why I'm mentioning it, that we would have really similar profiles, right? Similar likes and dislikes, and would most likely market to us in the same way, et cetera. Could not be more different human beings, right? Could not be more different human beings, like in every possible sense of the word. One of us is into psychedelics, and you wouldn't think it because this is a woman that's in her 60s. Another one is in her 20s and is like hardcore into football and sports, etc., which wouldn't make a lot of sense. And then you have, another person who's all about home decor and interior design and et cetera. But like couldn't be more different, 3 different personalities and profiles. Take that and multiply that by however many human beings are on the planet. That is the level of fragmentation in customer behavior that we are dealing with. That is the level of diversity of customer behavior that we are dealing with now. We've never seen this before. You could before be able to tie some threads around cohorts of customers and say these folks are generally similar, so we can market to them in generally the same way. That is becoming less and less the case. And so precision marketing is going to be the only marketing that will work come 5 years from now. That's number one. The second thing that I'm seeing through emography and other types of studies that we're doing, and we're seeing it in real time in actual human beings, is total and complete lack of trust.
Yeah.
Across the gamut. We are living in the most untrusting period of time of our entire lifetime, and that of our parents and their grandparents. Customers, consumers, human beings right now do not trust the government, do not trust science, do not trust each other, do not trust the internet, do not trust themselves, to be honest, right? So there is a starting point of fundamental disbelief, distrust, and also lack of optimism. So when you look at emographics and you also look at other data and research that is out there, this is the most unoptimistic period of time of the past 100 years. And interestingly, the US is one of the leading countries in that scope of unoptimistic human beings, right? not feeling good about today. They're not feeling good about the future. They are not thinking that things are going to get better. That does not exist. When you couple that with the massive distrust that we're all facing and dealing with, because we don't know what's true and what's not. It's not black and white anymore. There's a lot of gray. We're all kind of grappling with where we draw our own lines. When you couple that gray with that causes the distrust, with the lack of optimism and just not this there's no sense of this bright future, you get to really complicated, guarded, diverse, fragmented human beings that are all over that, all running the gamut, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so precision becomes super important, as I mentioned, but also building trust as a brand, which I know is something we've always talked about, that continues to be important. But the difference is how you build that trust is very different than the trust building activities that we would have done as marketers 10 years ago, right?
What would you say is the number one thing a brand should focus on to deal with that, those two major issues, lack of trust and lack of optimism? Like, what should a brand focus on?
Insights. You can't, it's the one thing that drives all of this.
Yeah.
You cannot build a strategy, and this is not just marketing. You cannot build a business strategy. You cannot build a product strategy. You cannot build a growth plan. You cannot build a revenue strategy without first truly understanding who is buying your service, your product, or your brand, right? And the who of that and the what and the why of that is more and more complex every day. So you have to double down, triple down, quadruple down on really comprehensive customer insights, data, and research in order to form the kind of granular, precise strategies that you're going to need in order to be able to connect with, engage with, and ultimately return a commercial gain to your business with this group of customers that are, all individual snowflakes, essentially, right? And so that is really the crux of what we are talking about. And I don't see a world where that fragmentation is going to unify. We're going to continue to become even more fragmented. We're going to continue to become even more individualistic as a society and as a culture. So understanding who is in your customer base, who makes up the potential to drive revenue for your business, and understanding them microscopically is going to be what unlocks revenue growth versus what flatlines a business.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's a great reminder that we have to focus on the core, which is always insights and spending time with customers. So, all right, we're coming down to the final stretch here. So what are you most excited about for the future, say the next 6 months to a year looking out?
Well, I am excited about all of the progress that's being made in neuromarketing and neuroscience, behavioral science work. There is a lot that is happening in that space, coupled with, some of the smart and safe advances that we're making in AI. Those two things together, I mean, the possibilities for AI to help us structure unstructured data, to help us, once we figure out the demographic profiles that we want to go after, to help us identify real people that fit into those demographic profiles. I mean, the opportunity is sort of endless there. What can happen when we marry this demographic work with the power of AI? So I'm very excited and also cautious about where this all will go. But I think we are at an inflection point in the evolution of marketing as a discipline. We have historically been mostly art and a little bit of science. We have become, I think, really an equal split between art and science, but we're now merging into this world of being mostly science with a little bit of art. And so that could be exciting or it could be terrible. I think the thing is that The thing is that we have to keep our eye on the prize, which is what ultimately is going to serve the business and what ultimately is going to serve the customer. But I am deeply paying attention to AI in the sense of data capabilities and continuing to evolve and work on neuroscience and neuromarketing. Because I really think what is possible with that for business strategists and for business transformation, we can't fathom right now.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I interviewed Neil Patel, who's a big marketing influencer, on the show yesterday. And he told me that in 92% of cases, humans still beat AI in writing blogs for SEO value. So hopefully we're not going to lose our jobs anytime soon. But, Adobe was my biggest client for many years. And I remember every year we would go to Adobe Max, and they have a portion of the conference called Sneaks, where they debut all the scary technology that's going to take people's jobs in the next 5 to 10 years. And, what always ends up happening is AI just allows us to do things that used to take 10 hours in 1 minute, right?
Right.
I'm excited about that potential, and as a business development person in the marketing world, a AI bot will never buy you a steak dinner or take you to a Lakers game. So
that's right.
Keep that.
So I think you're good.
I hope so. Well, Esther, this has been a fascinating conversation. I can't wait to study up and learn more about the work that you're doing around emotographics and this whole discipline of neuroscience and marketing. It's an area that I need to beef up in and really maybe think a little bit about how it applies to my vertical, which is influencer marketing. So I'll be excited to continue to follow along your thought leadership in that perspective. And for all of those at home listening, if you enjoyed my conversation today, please give us a like or a follow, wherever you're following along on video. If you subscribe to this podcast, you'll get to see more exciting guests like Esther. And then if you leave us a review, that helps us find a larger audience. And most importantly, if you think somebody would enjoy the conversation that we had together today, don't forget to share this with a colleague or a friend. So thanks again, Esther, for coming on the show. Appreciate your insights. All right. Have a great day.